Good morning, YouTube. Sister Kate here. I got up early this morning because Pastor Joe said we were going to do some garden work. So I got up and I did some garden work. And I wanted to kind of walk you through our garden, show you some of the stuff. Now, you know, on his live chat, I chided you all. I said, do you have your gardens in? Because you ought to by now. So I'm going to show you what's going on at the Shofar garden. Hang on tight. So we're going to start with this jug. Has a strawberry in it. That's an oregano. I had to replant because last year's oregano was fighting with this lavender and it died. So we got an oregano, and these chives came from the High Prairie garden, and they took last year and they're doing great. Then we got another strawberry and another strawberry. That's dill. The dill I bought, sage and thyme. So I bought those. Then as we move around the garden, I just planted that marigold. I just planted here and here cucumbers, and then there are cucumbers, I'm pointing at it, but I don't know if you can see it, along the front that I bought and then I planted. So then in the greenhouse, we have Brussels sprouts again this year, only they're at the other end of the bricks. They were bought as starters, as well as most of these greens. So this is broccoli. I'm pretty sure this is collards. And oh, hang on a minute. There's a naughty bit of stuff going on with bad bugs right there that both need to die. These are peas. And we planted them in the bricks by seed. And then I'm pretty sure these are collards, and I bought them at the store, and behind them is blue kale that again I bought as starter plants. So what's going on down here is a broccoli I planted. This is also a cabbage I planted from seed. This is a cabbage, and that's a cabbage. So they are all planted from seed. Then this is stevia. I bought that. That's planted from seed right there. I think that might be another collard. I bought the basil and these 4 tomatoes and that parsley plant and that tomato. And then I recently planted cucumbers right there. So that is the greenhouse. And as you see, when you plant when you're supposed to, you start getting produce. So we'll go from the greenhouse over to the, looks like a mess, doesn't it? Look like a jungle. Well, it's an organized mess. This is all the mustard that I brought down from Kansas, and it reseeds itself, comes up twice a year, reseeds itself. Those are the walking onions. If you look at the top of them, you will notice they are forming the onion heads that will drop right there and plant more onions. This is our fig tree coming back, mustard. And then if you remember from last year, these are the wild growing passion fruit vines, and they came up with a vengeance this year. They are everywhere. Then against the back wall of this, Pastor Joe's going to grow gourds again. So he's got gourds coming up. There's one over there, and there's one over there. And they're going to grow up over like they did. Here's one from like 2 years ago. Grow up over the greenhouse. All right, so walking through the mustard. Getting big and healthy and ready to eat. It's, you know, I can come out in the morning and pick that. And then Pastor Joe has planted plants that we bought, peppers and lettuce. But right in the middle of them, right out there, is a great big old peppers and tomatoes, not lettuce, I'm sorry. That's a tomato plant right over there. This is a self-starting lettuce, and those are some more of the onions that are going to drop. And then in front of them he planted more tomatoes, and then there's a self-growing lettuce. Those are from our lettuce patch from the garden last year. Okay, so then we're going to move this way. You see rows of garlic. That's the walking Jew, or I think that's what it's called. That's the wild plant. It's just gorgeous. That is good for your eyes, and right under it is a wild lettuce. Well, self-growing. More garlic. Then this is our lettuce patch. Some of that I planted from plants, but some of this came up this year not planted. Okay, then this row is a kind of green, and I'm sort of waiting until it gets a little bigger because I'm not exactly sure what I planted, but it looks like it might be collards right there. Then self-growing sunflowers, which we're transplanting as fast as we can, but we've got so many, we're just gonna have to pull some. These make very small seeds, so they're not good for humans. They are better for animal food. Then I just planted the marigolds, but that and that are all self-growing fennel plants from last year. And then this is a row of beets right here, and the little beets are up. And then this was another row which I tried to grow turnips in, and it just nothing grew in there. So right now it's just holding some stuff and growing weeds. Okay, then we swing over here. This is a wild edible. These are weeds that I need to pull out of our compost pile. These are some more of those sunflowers and weeds, but this is, if you remember from last year, Pastor Joe's watermelon patch. So he will be planting watermelon in here, and I think we had beans, climbing beans, so he may kind of get that cleaned up and plant them soon. Another simultaneous lettuce growing up, and then I've got a couple of squash plants here, and right out front here are the potatoes. They've already come up. I just planted beans in that row, and this is supposed to be beans, and that's another potato, and that's squash. Then this bed has the 4th year now for chamomile. You only harvest the tops, and strawberries in there. I've got a lot of them covered with the jugs to keep the bugs and stuff off of them. And so that is pretty much our garden thus far. The warm weather plants will not be as big as they're going to be in like mid-June when it gets really hot. The tomatoes and the cukes, peppers are not going to be the biggest plants right now. Right now what we're going to be looking at are those mustard greens. Oh yeah, eating them. And that lettuce. That's going to be lunch today. So I hope you've been gardening yourselves. Even if it's container gardening, it's still gardening. And that Yah blesses you mightily. All right, shalom.